Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Alan Hathaway from the Garrison Church of God. And I want to share with you a little bit on the thought, what we leave behind. And my thoughts will be coming out of Psalm 16, verses 5 through 6. I want to talk to you a little bit about the fourth verse of Be Thou My Vision. It's an interesting verse. It says, Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou my inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart, high King of heaven, my treasure thou art. We often think about what is really important in life. And I thought a little bit about that with a particular gentleman in Christian history. He was actually an Irish monk who was born sometime around the year 543. He was a very handsome young man as he grew up and very powerfully built, one of those men that everybody kind of wanted to be like. And I think he probably in our day and age would have been what we call a movie star kind of quality person. He had that type of an air about him. He decided very early in his life to devote himself to Christianity and to the Christian faith, much to the consternation of his mother, who wanted him to marry into a good family. He had caught most of the eyes of the young ladies in his community, but he felt like he needed to devote his life to Christianity and gave up all the future things that you would expect, and actually decided to enter a monastery. He would spend most of his life in the monastery until he was around age 40. At that point, he went to Iona, the monastery at Iona, off the coast of Scotland, and became involved in the missionary work that was going on there. From there, he traveled across to what is now modern France, and he started a missionary journey up the Rhine River. He would eventually come in contact with King Guthrum of Burgundy and would establish two monasteries that would change the future of Europe and the future of Christianity in Europe. He was a remarkable man. His name was Columbanus. He was hardy and hale and an adventuresome type of man that enjoyed adventure. And so he would travel and wrote quite a bit of interesting poetry. One of his songs is called the Boat Song, and if you haven't had a chance to look it up, I encourage you to do it. It's a tremendous poem from the Middle Ages. It reflects the adventure and the excitement of life and going after things and challenging oneself. It also talks about the need to follow Christ and give ourselves completely to his kingdom and to his purpose. And so those things are things about Columbanus that are exciting and dramatic. He often came into conflict with people that were not so committed to their Christian faith. In fact, a lot of the bishops that he ran into in what was left of the Gaelic Christian church in Europe were not happy with him. They didn't like his challenge of their laxity in their Christian faith, and were not really happy about the ideas of devotion that he brought to the faith. They were not really all that concerned with reaching the Frankish people that were now their overseers or the controllers of their world. And so they found a lot that they disliked in this man, Columbanus. But his faithfulness, his courage, his determination would establish Christianity and would also establish learning again in Europe. In fact, the two monasteries he established, one in France and one actually in northern Italy, would become foundational to the future of Western Europe. In fact, they would establish the pattern for other monasteries and also would establish the pattern for future universities in Europe. So it would be a change that would be welcomed in the desperate times following the collapse of the Roman Empire. What drove this man forward was a real sense of mission and determination. And as a result of that, he left behind himself a tremendous heritage, a heritage that we still are benefiting from. In Psalm 16, it says, "Preserve me, O God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. I have no good apart from you. As for the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all my delight. The sorrows of those who run after another God shall multiply. They drink offerings of blood. I will not pour out nor take their names on my lips. The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. You hold my lot. The lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful heritage or inheritance." I think a lot about Columbanus when I think about that. He would never return to his home once he left for France. He would remain in Europe for the rest of his days. He would die deeply respected by the men he had led on these adventures. They would be the men that would go on to found universities and concepts of learning and purpose in Europe. He was a man that inspired people by his life and by his faith. Who are you inspiring with your life and with your faith? What heritage are you leaving behind you? What difference will it make in 100 years? Because in 100 years, what Columbanus had done would save Europe. What will you leave behind you that will make a difference in the lives of people if Christ tarries? That is the important question we should all ask ourselves. This man did not think about what he would leave behind. He thought about his commitment to Christ, and he thought about his responsibility in that commitment. And really, that's where we all need to start if we are to build a heritage for the future. What does Christ mean in my life? What does his calling of me require? When we have answered that question, then we will be well on our way to establishing a heritage that will make a difference in the world. I want to stop right here, and I want to talk to you about something else that's important today. In fact, more important in some ways than my message. Today we celebrate Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. As Christians, we recognize that human beings are sacred. They are sacred because they are made in the image of God. This particular weekend was the March for Life in Washington. I want to encourage you to look up the videos on that. Particularly, I want you to look up a video by a young woman by the name of Katie. She was one of the speakers. She has Down syndrome, and she talks about the importance of humanity in all of its forms. As Christians, from the very foundations of the Christian faith, sanctity of human life has been central to our understanding of the calling of the gospel. Christians opposed abortion from the very beginning. They opposed euthanasia from the very beginnings of our faith. You read in the early documents of Christianity deep opposition to both of these things. In fact, Christians went out and rescued children that had been abandoned to die by their parents. They saved them. They rescued them. Christianity is a religion that is founded on sanctity of human life. And if we ever forget that, we fail God and we fail our fellow men. So this Sunday, I want you to think about that and how important that really is. And I want you to recommit yourself to the sanctity of human life. One of the things that you can do, and that I do, is I support crisis pregnancy centers. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to give an offering to them and support their work to reach out to young women who are in crisis and who are thinking about having an abortion. That makes a difference. Thank you for what you will do, because I believe that you love Christ and that you love your fellow men. And if you do that, you will leave a heritage for future generations. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you in church.